Hey, Dustin. Excuse me.
All right, good good morning, everybody. Welcome to the what are we here? The IRC Technical Advisory Group for Thursday, August 21st. So, Dustin, if we could go ahead and do roll call.
All righty. Angela Haupt let us know that she won't be available today. Dan Young.
Here.
Thank you. Jenny Luke.
Here.
Thank you. Quinn Ty. Not seeing in the room just yet. Maybe you'll pop in. Patrick Hanks. Not seeing online yet. Ron Perkowicz.
Here.
Thank you. Ken Brulette. Not seeing online. Josh Mergens.
Here.
Thank you. Barry Kurth. Not seen online. Justin Cravalho. Justin, I see you online, but you're not unmuted.
Here.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Mariko Blessing. Not seeing online. Jonathan Jones. Not seeing online. And Leah Summer. Not online. Annie O'Rourke.
Here.
Thank you. And with that, we do have quorum. We've got one extra seat represented. So if anybody needs to leave, raise your hand, please let us know, and we'll monitor those numbers.
All right. And then are there any members of the public that want to be recognized?
I'm not seeing any hands coming up.
Nope, neither do I. So, all right, we'll move to the next. So we have review and approve agenda. So does anybody have a motion?
So moved.
Second. This is Josh Mergens.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Not hearing any. Motion passes. And then Dustin, if you could put up the August 19th minutes, we can review and approve those.
And that is the end of those.
Okay. And if I can hear a motion?
So moved.
Annie?
And
Second.
then second from Jen. Thank you. All right, we have a motion. So any discussion? Not seeing any hands coming up, so we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Doesn't look like it. Looks like Dustin, looks like Patrick is now here too.
Yep, I see that.
Okay. All right. So we're through that part. Let's go to number 4, which is the existing amendments final. Josh, you have your hand raised.
Yeah. Sorry if this has been answered already, as I haven't been able to be at all the meetings. I happened to notice in a project I was doing a point of confusion in an existing amendment. I don't know if the ship has sailed on that, if there's opportunity for tag proposals at this point, but I just figured I'd flow it up. It's not a critical one. If anything, I think people would misinterpret it as conservative, but where are we in the process for ability to put forth a change?
So we're hoping to get all tag proposals in by this Friday. Next week on Tuesday and Thursday, we're slating those meetings for review of proposals. So if we could get something in for those meetings, the due date for this Friday is to make sure we have time to post them for the meetings in the following week. So if you have a proposal prepared, we could get that taken in and put out there.
I'll try to get something together before then, and if not, it's pretty minor and can wait till next cycle.
Gotcha. Do you know which section that's on?
It's R 403.1, and I might be missing some subsequent points. It's the footing size charts that we've added as an alternate to the light frame construction tables in the IRC.
Okay. So as we're running through the final review of the existing amendments, I have some highlighted cells in there. If we can talk about that a little bit as we move through there and maybe update the content of the report a little bit as well. So I got a note to stop in there on 4031 and we can discuss a little bit.
Perfect. I appreciate it. I'll stop derailing things.
You're all right. All right, just moving some stuff around. Give me one moment. Oh, all right. The existing amendments report. So this has edits to it. Trying to bring it into its final state before we move it to the committee for approval and recommendation to the council. Moving through here, some of the stuff that was asked for this report is to include the tag proposals that go with certain sections here that we've got going on. Let me just run through my list of stuff that I had run through here. I've got some highlighted squares where we had some notes for some additional discussion and things like that. So I wanted to make sure that we're finalized on those sections. And then we should be able to run through this one pretty quick and discuss the stuff. We've got some highlights on the report to go through. Verified the UPC sections are going to remain accurate into the 2024 codes. And I think that that's the basic generalization of what I got going on here. So I'm going to scroll through from the top, looking through this. Based on the discussions we've had so far, I've updated the tag member recommendation column to reflect those discussions and moving through. So I've gone through and numbered the tag proposals and slotted them in on any of the existing amendments and significant change sections in these reports so that we can see where we're at with those. They are not active links just yet. And for clarity, we have the proposals list as listed in other business for this meeting today. So as we get through there, I'm expecting a couple revisions to those proposals that we have numbered, but I've just got them numbered in there and slotted in so that we can have the information in here to point back to where we're going. So for the section 5151003, we have a proposal on that one, number 045. That's going to be the one that is mainly focused on section 2904. And that we're talking about changing the way we reference the appendices and how this section here, 11 and 25 through 43, are not adopted in the code. So we have an appendix AWU and AWV as well that have some amendments coming through proposed by this proposal. And so the change there is to not have the appendix AWU anymore and just specifically adopt section 2904 out of chapter 29 and making sure that this statement in this section is clear. And I've also tried to go through and make sure that these aren't breaking across the pages. And this is a section that didn't quite work out on that one, but I've tried to get that. And so there might be a lot of white spaces in here as we try to keep things together on these pages. And it looks like stuff I've done on this one down lower has messed it up up above. So I will try to clean that up a little bit more when we finalize this. Getting to section 101.2, we have two tag proposals on this one. One is to clarify that section 2904, and then we have another tag proposal looking at the exceptions for section 101.2. We have a lot of discussion on the daycare Our state amendment actually mainly lies right here in number 3, and all the rest of these are model code language sections that have some state amendment to them, but we have some discussion on this number 6. So the other proposal is going to really address the daycare facility exception there. And at any point, if anybody, I don't have the hands right in front of me, but if you have anything you'd like to say, just speak on up. I'm happy to pause. We get to 102.5. In this one, we have the tag proposal 045, which is again the number or section 2904 proposal. For this section, we have a recommendation to repeal the amendment for egress roof access window that's contained in the proposal for number 046, which is addressing sleeping lofts versus lofts. And the model code has moved to sleeping lofts, and the discussion is to maintain just loft language in Washington. Similar for the definition of landing platform, we have the proposal 046 in there, and the definition for loft. We'll see this one pop up again in the significant changes report, modifying the definition or striking the definition of sleeping loft to go back to what we have currently here with a little bit of update. And we have 2 family dwellings. We have a separate proposal for that to kind of clarify how this one breaks into some new sections in the 2024 model code. So we have proposal 047 coming in for that one. And that's relevant to all of section 302.3. They have a new big section in there. And even though we're not proposing any changes on 302.34 with the proposal, since it's relevant to the topic, I've just got it listed in here because it's the section is included in the text of the proposal, even though there's no change proposed. This one is 045. This is related to the section 2904 proposal, mainly just cleaning up some stuff in here with the reference to the appendix and referencing correct sections for this section. And this one, natural light, had a big revision in the 2024 model code, and our state amendment needed some work on that one to make it line up and keep the content while also aligning with the new model code language. So proposal 044 is the one we have slotted in for that one, and it's relevant to all of section 325 in the 2024 code. And is listed in here for all of the sections 303 in the 21 code existing amendments. All right, for garages and carports, we have a proposal 049, which is expected for the electric vehicle charging infrastructure components of these sections. So we have that one slotted in here. The emergency escape and rescue openings, 046 is relevant to the sleeping lofts that we were talking about earlier. Same for guards and window fall protection. We have 046 dealing with the sleeping lofts. Same here for smoke alarms and heat detection location section. For this one, solar, we got let me just make sure I don't remember specifically what all's in 038. Give me 2 moments here. But that is a tag proposal. And number 038. Oh, sorry, we have that one came in from the public, but I wanted to make sure I noted that one here. We had some discussion on this one, and so it's not a tag proposal highlighted there. And I didn't go through and highlight all of the places where we have public proposals for existing amendments. That one was discussed at our last meeting briefly, and I was on my mind when I highlighted that. John, go ahead.
Just wanting to see if we're going to be discussing that today, and should we have our folks on here that can speak to it?
Don't anticipate having any robust discussion on the proposals today. The main goal of today is to move this report that we're reviewing across the finish line, and then the significant changes report, we try to move that one as close to the finish line as possible. So as far as making any or taking any action on the proposals today, that's not anticipated. The reason I have the proposal list on there for other business is just to touch it if we see anything we need to mess with before our next week's meetings.
Gotcha. Thanks, Dustin.
No problem, John. Thank you. This 046 is for the sleeping lofts in habitable attics. We have our sleeping loft section, so proposal 046 will be applicable to all of these sections, and the IRC 2021-333 and section 315 in the 2024 code. So getting here, these are the highlighted blocks that I had marked for additional discussion. And so let me go back here. So this is the section, I think, Josh, that you said that there was some issues that you guys were discussing or had some issues with it in your work over the last weeks. The notes I had on here was to incorporate the model code language and that a proposal's needed to do that to our state amendment. I'm happy to write that because it's fairly editorial, and I think it also reduces costs based on the information provided in from ICC on the change there. It allows a little bit more flexibility in what goes on underneath the footings there. And I wanted to pause and talk about this section, and if we can write a proposal, or I'm happy to write a proposal to propose adding crushed stone footings for cast in place concrete. Any thoughts on that? Josh, go ahead.
I think it makes perfect sense to incorporate the model language, and the portion I was talking about is actually the very next one, 403.1.1 parentheses one.
Okay.
But I would be happy to write a proposal if no one else can as well. It seems pretty straightforward.
Gotcha. I'm gonna unhighlight this one. And I'll write a proposal for this one to incorporate the model code language. And I'll be using economic data that comes from ICC. There's not a ton in their CDP access stuff, but what is there, I'll bring into the proposal and add to the bottom of our list. It'll be
Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, Dustin, you mentioned economic data. Would this have a economic impact?
According to what was viewed on the ICC code development access information, the addition of bringing in crushed stone footings will reduce construction costs because it adds a lower cost option for certain scenarios. So it's not adding cost, it's reducing, but the information that's in those proposal documents for ICC is what I would intend to bring to this one. And they don't have any specific real numbers. They just have a kind of a statement of what's going on, but I'll sift through that one and bring it forward. Alrighty, so this one, any of these other ones that are highlighted in chapter 4, which is pretty much, or I got chapter 4 and chapter 5 stuff that I had notated for additional discussion, primarily focusing on if there's any snow loading changes that need to happen here. The question that I had in my notes was, is this still using the ASD versus the ultimate design? And looking back into chapter 3 of the 2024 IRC, they're still using the ASD design. And so I just have these highlighted as they had potential snow loading issues. And so I wanted to make sure that we don't need anything additional in these sections as we move forward. And so, Josh, you said we might need to look at these ones, these figures here below a little bit.
Yeah, so as it relates to the ASD and LRFD, I concur with you. I don't think there's anything we need to do because the IRC is still using ASD loads. It has language about the conversion, and we had, I think I was one of the ones who brought up, we want to wait till we see some of these other proposals, and we did see some of the ones brought forth from SEAW, and they were adding clarification to the table and kind of giving us more options, not trying to move away from an ASD snow approach. So everything is still proposed and adopted as ASD snow. So I think we're plenty good enough there, unless others have other thoughts. My comment that actually came up this morning on a project relates to the terminology we use. So it says a tributary span in the table, and this is a table replacing a table from the IRC or an acceptable exception. But the table in the IRC uses full span of the building, or they say building width. And in typical engineering terms, at least in my experience, it's much more common to hear tributary width as opposed to tributary span. It's almost it can be interpreted two different directions. And based on back figuring the numbers, they were looking at tributary width, not tributary span, which is the basically, if somebody were to misinterpret this, they would be very conservative. So it's not an urgent issue, but it was brought to my attention and there was some confusion about it. So I back figured the numbers, and I do see where confusion can come up with that terminology, especially considering the table it's replacing. I'm hoping maybe somebody on the call happened to be involved in this at some point. I'd love to hear if there's anything else particular that I'm missing, but it seems pretty cut and dry to me that the intent was a tributary width, or in other words, half of the span. So we say a tributary span. Does anyone else see that as an issue, or am I just odd? Or are there other structural folks on the call today, or maybe I'm the only one?
So just so I'm tracking, the main it's just the changing span to width, and the tributary width runs. It would be it's similar to span, but it's not the same thing. And so I'm hearing the difference there, but what is the misconception that happens when someone uses the width versus the span?
So the tributary width is half of a span. And
Okay.
I've never heard the term tributary span before. That seems kind of like a almost an oxymoron or something. You're either a span or you're the tributary width, not a tributary span. And what I could do too, since I know I'm kind of bringing this up late in the game, I could put a better explanation and some numbers to back it into a proposal and submit it. We can discuss more from there. Definitely open to hearing from other folks on this, as this is about a hour-old idea at this point, because it literally came up this morning. But looking at the numbers, it seems that they were using a tributary width, and maybe other folks are already realizing this and interpreting it right. It's just a little bit confusing language. But I see someone raising their hand. I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I got a double mute system. I usually remember to unmute the first one, but I didn't. I apologize. So this was created by Harvey over at Harms Engineering in the Tri-Cities, Washington area, and it was submitted by the Tri-Cities Home Builders Association. And it fixed a footings issue that came up a couple code cycles ago, specifically dealing with like basements and the span, and the footings were getting way out of control. It required engineering on the east side of the state, which is not something that's typical compared to the west side. And so the east side folks came up with a chart as such by paying an engineer to create it, so they wouldn't have to use engineering for every floor plan that went through the permit process.
And that's great to know. And that's definitely what it looks like they're doing, because the normal tables, you're fixed on your floor width. You don't get to adjust floor and roof separately, which is much more realistic. I'm a fan of the table.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand this. Can you briefly explain the problem again, Joshua?
Yeah, it would be very easy for a jurisdiction or engineer to misinterpret this as needing much bigger footings. And the reason being, if you're using the span, which is your out to out of your truss or floor joist, whatever you're looking at, that's twice as much as this table's expecting you to use. And the word tributary kind of lives more in the land of engineers than it does in the code language. Certainly it's in the code language, but saying something like tributary span, I don't know if that's clear to all building jurisdiction employees or folks who would be doing a prescriptive design without an engineering background. Maybe even the simplest way is just explain what tributary span is. And now that we know who the original folks were, we could potentially, or I'm happy to do this, reach out to them and make sure I'm not misinterpreting their intent, because that's the last thing I want to do. But it looks pretty clear from the numbers if you run through the table how they got to this. It's really just a confusing language that somebody might miss the benefit of this exception. And that's really all it is they might not be able to take as good of benefit of this exception by misinterpreting the table.
And you're suggesting changing the terminology to tributary width?
Or probably better would be to say the tributary span is, and we can explain how that's measured, which is just half the span essentially. Otherwise, we have to go through and change the images of all the tables, and that doesn't necessarily seem, the easiest solution. It seems like just explaining in here what they mean by tributary span, and I would put together some numbers to back up that interpretation. I see Jen has her hand up.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Jen.
if tributary span isn't really a correct term, I would rather see us use tributary width and explain what that is, for those who don't know, versus trying to explain this, like you said, like this oxymoronic term. And looks like we use it in a couple places, and then item D says multiply floor span, which I assume means the entire span. So I think it's confusing because if you're saying tributary floor span and then you get to that item, are you multiplying the tributary floor span or the actual span? So if we had tributary width and then span, then those are two distinct terms that have distinct meanings.
I wholeheartedly agree. Those are all very good points. And yeah, absolutely. I agree with what you're saying.
Well, I would say that, just because we get a proposal in doesn't mean we're for sure doing the change. So if you had ideas on a proposal, we could get it in prior to posting for the Tuesday meeting next week, I would welcome it. But Quinn, go ahead.
Yeah, two things. First, I just got on Dustin, so missed the roll call.
Okay.
Second, following along with what Jen was saying, I think using tributary area, usually that's what we're meaning. But I understand that the chart is trying to use the span itself. So maybe in a span, it's like an element of the tributary area. So maybe say like row span element or something along those lines to make people know that it's not the actual tributary area, because that's what we're ultimately trying to get, if that makes any sense.
It does. And this is where it gets a little tricky because in the land of engineers, I know it's engineers put this together, we say tributary length all the time, but I agree that the code tends to be more focused on area. Maybe in the interest of time with this meeting, so we don't get into too lengthy of a conversation after we hear from Patrick, how about I put together some language? I'll just throw together the best I can here. And when we get to final discussions on those proposals, people can help polish that a little bit and we can move on from there. But I don't want to take too much time on something borderline editorial. But I really appreciate the things you guys are bringing up. They're all very useful. And I'm sorry, I forget which gentleman brought up the name of the company who prepared this chart. If they were willing to share that again, that would be helpful for me. I could see if I can get a hold of them and make sure I'm not misinterpreting anything.
It was Harvey with Harms Engineering in Tri-Cities, Washington.
Thank you, sir.
If I remember right, I think he actually won some sort of state award on this. He got some trophy on the engineering for this foundation system through one of the organizations.
Oh, that's pretty cool and probably deserved because this goes a long way to helping things.
Awesome.
Okay,
So,
Patrick, you had your hand up.
Yeah, first, for Joshua, I did a quick search. It looks like tributary span is used one other time in our 603.8. So you may need to look at that as well. My hope was that we could approve the report today, but I guess we have this and then that other proposal that Dustin mentioned. So is it possible that we can put like tag proposal TBD and then approve or take a vote on the report today with that, and then when we have proposal numbers for those, if they get it by tomorrow, we can get numbers for them.
So my thought is I'm prepared to pop a proposal number into this right now. With the proposal, as you saw me do that on the one up above earlier.
Okay.
And I can do another one for this one as well.
Sounds good.
Okay. Moving on. So everything that's highlighted in here moving forward is just the snow discussion. Josh, is the proposal you'll be looking at gonna cover all of these 403.1.1 figures?
Yes.
Okay.
And the whole ASD, LRFD snow thing is no longer something we need to hang on to now that we've seen all the other proposals.
Okay. Moving out of the 403.1.1. The next stuff I have on here as far as like the additional discussion is in 507 for similar stuff. Would we say that I just have it on here that may need to be visited due to snow load revision. Still, I guess the sentiment that I'm hearing now is that it's no longer an issue.
That's correct, because the tables still give you an ASD snow load. The snow loads may change in some locations, but the tables still give us the right values. And because we aren't doing anything to change the IRC values to LRFD, those tables are still valid.
Gotcha. Same on this one. This is the last one.
Thanks for setting those aside, Dustin. Sorry to make you do so much editing.
It's okay. All right, moving forward. I think there's a lot of just scrolling through the middle of the report. This one, 1504.3044 is on the ventilation and heating. I don't think that they're actually proposing any changes in this section, just that it could be relevant here. So I have it in there because it's in the content of the document we were looking at. I don't have the official proposal for that one just yet. This is the 2904.1.1. So we have a proposal on that one. We get to the appendix on tiny houses. We have a separate proposal. This kind of goes hand in hand with the sleeping loft topic, but we're gonna be looking for a separate proposal on appendix BB for the 2024 code. And then this is the 2904 specific proposal. Again, looking to make some modifications in this one, and that proposal is recommending to repeal the amendments here and pretty much strike the appendix. And then there'll be a modification to the AWV appendix made by the proposal for the 2904. And that, everybody, is the end of the report. Are there any specific sections anybody would like to go back to and rehash, or are we in a position for a motion on this one?
Patrick?
I'll move to approve as amended.
Second, this
Seconded.
is Josh. Or whomever.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not seeing any hands. Let's go to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
And we're gonna move to, what's the next one there is the
Yeah,
significant changes report.
changes, yeah. All right, so that is saved. And getting into the significant changes report, let me just clean up my screens, make sure I don't have too much open. So I'll bog down real quick. Accidentally clicked the wrong document. All right, so this report grew quite a bit in the time since this group has last viewed it. The main growth there is in the appendices. There was an ask to bring in the significant changes, more to the new appendices, but I went ahead and included all the significant changes in the other existing appendices as well. And then the other main change is to link the proposals that are relevant to these sections as well in here. And then one of the other things was to add a map of the seismic design mapping for Washington to see the change from 2021 to 2024. And so I'll run through this one. We got 300 pages, so I'm going to try to do this a little bit faster. If there's anything, please stop me as we run through. Patrick, go ahead.
I can, unless anybody's opposed, can you just cover what's changed?
Yes, I can do that. So it's mainly stuff that's highlighted, so I'll run through and we got the proposal numbers affecting specific sections. Got a little one here for sleeping loft. So, and the other change that was made that I glossed over was the recommendations for amending Chapter 11 stuff out of the code. We discussed not doing that. And so the recommendations mainly in the definitions have changed to not strike Chapter 11 references as well. So there was a lot of amendment needed in this chapter the last time we looked at this. We're into chapter 3. A lot of tables. Here's the seismic design map that was included here. The one with the X on it is the 2021. And this one here is the 2024 version. They didn't have this little designator included in the snip that I was doing. But you know, the shading is slightly different. So I wanted to make sure that it's relevant, that this isn't a reduction over here. It's still E, but there's just more of it, and it doesn't look the same. So when I was running through doing this, it became a little bit confusing to my eye until I noticed that the table here wasn't quite there.
As a side note, I'll say the shading they've used for these charts are absolutely terrible. It is so hard to read.
And it's so high level view that it's hard to actually run through and look. But Josh, go ahead.
I was just going to point out it is very hard to read, and I believe they have it in the note in the bottom left. The official source is not the map. The map is just illustrative. You're supposed to be getting the values from the ASCE hazards that find specific points. So ASCE is in a big push to get away from using maps entirely because of all these inaccuracies and challenges to see it. So at this point, the official position from ASCE, from my understanding, is these are just illustrative, and you would go to the hazards page. And I can't read it right here, but that bottom left description, I believe I'm seeing that ASCE 722 and bringing up the web address, but it's hard to see in this view.
What? That's such large text. Sorry. But yeah, so that's good information for folks who use these. But does this work for the group showing the difference in the seismic, the illustrative differences? Seeing no objections, I will move on. Some more reference to tag proposals on the two-family dwelling for 3023. We got 045. This is for dwelling unit fire sprinkler systems. Oh, 46. This has got to do with the sleeping lofts. Sleeping loft section. And so a lot of this in here is to repeal the existing amendment to these sections because it's all been worked out and included in the model code. And so we have the proposal there to do that. 046, still sleeping lofts. 048 care facilities. This one's an accessibility one that is not included on the existing amendments report. This is a new code section and just trying to make sure that we're clear on the adult family home application there. Natural light section that got split up into some new stuff. And with these big tables, it starts getting a little bit cumbersome to get these to break across the page appropriately. So apologies on all the white space. Patrick?
Sorry, it looks like we had a reference to the crushed stone footings thing. Did we need to add in the proposal number for that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's see.
There's a
Crushed
few
stone
pages
footing
back.
is it's gonna be 40311. Thank you, Patrick. And then as far as this, I just want to make sure I'm covering everything else. So the sections that we're looking for, the proposal from you, Josh, they're not included in the significant change report because any changes in those tables were kind of written out by our amendment there, and that's why we don't have these sections in the report.
Sure.
And Patrick, you said that tributary span was listed in chapter 6 as well. Is Josh, I don't know what are your thoughts on if you're going to include that in the proposal that you're bringing?
I think it would be important to look at. I'll admit I have not been able to juggle and look at that section yet, but I have it written down here.
Okay.
So I don't have an answer this moment, but I think it would be worth looking at because if we're saying the term doesn't make sense there, it might not make sense elsewhere.
Okay.
I've also tracked down the contact information for the gentleman who made the table, so I'm going to try to reach out to him today and see if I can't just have a quick conversation, make sure there's nothing that I'm missing about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, the references in the exception B for table R 603.8. It looks like it's in the model code language for the 2021. I have not checked the 2024 code. And so it's not a state amendment, but I think it's if we're changing the definition in one spot or we need to change it somewhere else, I think that's fine for the proposal and it doesn't need to necessarily be in either report.
Yeah, but thank you, Patrick, for bringing all that up. And I will chase down and just make sure too that there isn't a definition somewhere for tributary span that I'm not aware of. I didn't see it in chapter 2, but I'll verify all this because like I said, this was kind of a scramble before the meeting, having talked to somebody and having this confusion come up. So I'm less prepared than I would like to be.
Chapter 6. So it's not included in the significant changes report. And correct me, I don't think we have an existing amendment to that section either. Is that accurate?
That looks like there isn't one.
Okay. So then we don't necessarily need to I guess, flag a proposal number for that section is what I want to make sure we're covering.
And I did pull it up in the 24 and it looks like it's the same.
Okay.
So that term is in model code language.
Always fun when there's a term in one footnote in the whole code.
I promised that I had all these lined up so that they weren't breaking across the pages yesterday, and now they're all goofed up. So apologies. I will be cleaning this up so that it, the stuff for chapter 22 is all on one page. All right, we get into chapter 29. We have a tag proposal for chapter 29. Have our referenced standards, a bunch of them. And then at the end of the reference standards section is the appendices, and that's essentially where we left off last time we were looking at this. Okay, so changes here. I did a review of all the appendices, and so Appendix AA we don't adopt, and there's no significant changes within that appendix. Same thing for Appendix AB permit fees. Appendix AC is reserved, so there's no content. Appendix BA manufactured housing used as dwellings. It's not adopted and no significant changes observed. Appendix BB, we have a tag proposal on it. The entire, appendix is moved from AQ to section BB. And in my review of that one, there's no significant changes, so I didn't add any content other than to point out that we have a proposal coming in for that section. Appendix BC, accessory dwelling units. It's a new appendix that we don't currently have adopted. So everything in here is indicated as new language. And since it's not adopted, I'm identifying it as no construction cost, or no cost impact to our codes, and recommending that we don't amend the section. And so as we run through, if anybody wants to stop and talk about any of these new appendixes included in the report, feel free to raise a hand or go ahead and speak up. But for this one, no cost, no recommendation on any modifications. For Appendix BD, home daycare, it's not adopted and contains no significant changes from 2021 to 24. Appendix BE radon control methods, we did review last time, and it has a couple changes in there, but not recommending to make any changes based on those. Appendix BF patio covers is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix BG sound transmission is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix BH automatic vehicular gates is not adopted and there contains no significant changes. Appendix BI light straw clay construction is not adopted and also contains no significant changes. Appendix BJ straw bale construction is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix BK cob construction is not adopted, but does have a couple changes in it. They add a definition for buck, and same for the other not adopted appendices. Since it's not adopted and we don't have any proposals to adopt it, the cost evaluation on this one is that the changes bring no cost to Washington and not making any recommendations to modify or adopt this appendix. Appendix BL hemp lime or hempcrete construction. It's a new appendix that is not adopted in, well, hasn't had a chance to be adopted in Washington yet. Since it's not currently adopted and we don't have any proposals to adopt it, the cost is at none, with no recommendation to adopt or amend. Appendix BM 3D printed building construction is not adopted and has one small change in it. Cost is none and recommendation to adopt or amend is no. Appendix BN. Drawn on the screen, Ron. Anyway, Appendix BN extended plate wall construction is not adopted and cost is at none with no recommendation to amend or adopt. Appendix BO existing buildings and structures not adopted. Cost at none. Recommendation to amend or adopt is no. Appendix CA sizing and capacities of gas piping is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix CB sizing of venting systems serving appliances equipped with draft hoods. Category 1 appliances and appliances listed for use with type V vents is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix CC recommended procedure for safety inspection of an existing appliance installation is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix CD piping standards for various applications is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix CE venting methods is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix CF sizing of water piping system is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix CG non-sewered sanitation systems is a new appendix and is not adopted and is also regulated by the Department of Health. So any recommendations to adopt or amend are no and no cost. due to these changes. Appendix CH, private sewage disposal, is not adopted and contains no significant changes. Appendix NA is reserved. Appendix NB, solar ready provisions, detached 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhouses. It's moved from AT to NB. It contains no technical language changes, and we have some content in our existing amendments report for this section. Appendix NC, zero net energy residential building provisions, is not adopted. Any changes are cost for no, and recommendations to adopt or amend is no as well. Appendix ND, electrical energy storage provisions, is a new appendix and hasn't been adopted. Cost at none. Recommendation to adopt or amend is no. Appendix NE, electric vehicle charging infrastructure, is a new appendix and is not adopted. The recommendation to adopt or amend is no, and cost for changes is none. Just curious, Patrick, did you guys use this one in the drafting of the proposal for Chapter 3 for the EV stuff?
I think we brought in a definition. Have to pull it up.
Run through. Appendix NF, alternative building thermal envelope insulation R value options, is a new appendix. It's not adopted. Cost at none, and recommendation to adopt or amend is no. Appendix NG 2024 IECC stretch code. It's a new appendix. It's not adopted. Cost for the change is none. Amendment needed, no on that one. Then we have Appendix NH, operational carbon rating and energy reporting, is a new appendix, not adopted. Cost at none. Recommendation to adopt or amend is no. Appendix NI, on-site renewable energy, is not adopted. Change or cost for changes is none, and recommendation to adopt or amend is no. Appendix NJ, demand responsive controls, is a new appendix. It's not adopted. Cost is none. Recommendations to adopt or amend this appendix is no. Appendix NK, electric ready residential building provisions, is a new appendix which is not adopted. Cost is none. Recommendation to adopt or amend is no. Appendix NL, renewable energy infrastructure, is a new appendix, not adopted. Cost is none. Recommendations to adopt or amend is no. And then we get to resource A, all electric residential buildings is a new resource, which is not adopted. Cost for the change is no, and any recommendations to adopt or amend is no. And that is the end of the existing amendments, or sorry, significant changes report. Is there any sections we should go back and look at in greater detail? Go ahead, Patrick.
I'll say thanks, Dustin, for adding in all that analysis on the appendices, and I'll move to approve this report as amended.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jonathan. So we have a motion with a second. Is any further discussion? I'm not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
All righty. I want to thank everybody for the amount of work going into this one. And I think we've made a big step today. So thanks everybody for the time and input on these reports. Let me make sure I don't destroy what we've done today. Close that out. So that brings us to our other business topic. The only item I posted the proposals spreadsheet to just have it up here as a potential topic to discuss. Notifications should have been received by folks who are expected to provide revisions in here. So I've got notes on here for revisions that are expected. The tag proposal revisions we're hoping to get in as well. I do need to send out additional communication on that to tag members for those proposals. Changes made to this today are these bottom two lines here. Where we added in the proposal I'm going to write up for section 403.1.1, incorporating the crushed stone footings language. And then Josh, I'm looking for a proposal from you on the 403.1.1 figures. So there's a need to add a little bit more in there.
Mhm.
But does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns with what we have on the proposals spreadsheet? Quinn?
Yeah, just really quickly, I'm getting Micah text messaged me. He's not able to make it, it sounds like. But he's asking, are we getting rid of the requirements for sprinklers in the IRC scoping 101.2 for care facilities as currently amended by WAC 5151 01010? He was looking at the staff proposal from Dustin in the report. The changes matches the 2024 base language, but does not show the Washington amendment we have now.
So in the significant changes report or in the existing amendments report?
Sounds like staff proposal. So I'm not sure what he's talking about, but
So we have a proposal from Angela on 101.
yeah, that's for adult family homes, and he's saying he sees a proposal, staff report that you guys are matching the 2024 base language, but we're not including the state amendment to include sprinklers requirements.
I don't believe that that's the intent to strike that stuff, but so I would like to, I guess, let me, open up these reports and double check what we got going on here.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just relaying what he's
It's
texting
okay.
me.
I'd rather make sure we're covering the stuff appropriately. So 101.2, we have yes to modify the amendment. And if this is what he's looking at, yeah, it's just this is the
Yeah.
change in the model code. And the existing amendments report, let me open that up. So we have modify the existing amendment. So I don't think that the intent is to
Yeah, red.
strike
Okay,
any
as long as
language.
perfect. I think that's all he's asking for. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the proposal we have on these sections doesn't propose any of those changes he's worried about getting struck. We just need to make sure that it's clear when the sprinklers apply versus don't apply. So I think the number 6 is where a lot of that sprinkler confusion is coming in for folks when adult family homes less than less than 7 beds don't require the sprinkler systems. And so we're trying to make the clarity across this section and chapter 3 with your proposal, Quinn.
Perfect.
All right, Patrick.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if we can send out a communication to all external to petition proponents that we intend to meet Tuesday and Thursday and take final action on proposals. And then I know we already
I
sent
believe
one
that
for
communication should have gone out already.
okay, you sent it to all. I know that we did it for the ones that we're expecting revisions on, but did we did it for everybody else?
I believe so, and if it hasn't happened, we'll make sure that happens here today.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure it was very clear that that we'll be taking final action on all that next week for those
Yeah,
folks.
I'll double check with Rosanna on that one. John.
Yeah, hi Dustin. Just wanted to double check one more time, and I'm sorry about that. Because I didn't see the full language of our proposal for R329 in any of the reports. So I just want to make sure that actually got in. It actually is somewhere.
So the only place that your language for your oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong section, I think. Hold on. But we have your proposal, so the content of public proposals isn't included in those reports that we put on today. So we have the solar energy systems number 038. Let me pull that over and show. So we have this one. This is where the language that you guys are proposing is contained at the moment. It's not in any report or draft code language just yet.
Okay, understood. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so just making sure we're notifying all proponents that we're trying to do final action at next week's meetings. Anything else on the proposal spreadsheet? All right, well, that's all I have for other business.
Does anybody else have anything for the other business part? Doesn't look like we do. So that's what we have on our agenda for today. I know we've all been putting a lot of hours on this, so I think it looks like we're going to get you at least an hour and a half back. And then our next meeting will be Tuesday. Is that correct, Dustin?
That is correct, from 9 till noon. And in our first reading of all the proposals received so far by the public, we had some questions go out. So just like Patrick was mentioning, we're expecting final action on most of the proposals come Monday, and hopefully we can clean it all up by Thursday next week.
All right. All right. Well, with nothing else here, I'm going to give you guys some time back, and hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you all for coming.
Yes, thanks everybody for coming, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Bye.